panel discussion for the day, very exciting. How much innovation is just enough? And how do we measure the innovation return on investment? Now, some things are inherently easier to measure than others. But how do we measure innovation? Well, the reason only a third of the Fortune 1000 companies have formal innovation metrics is because there is no easy answer to the question, how do we measure innovation? But lucky for us, we have an expert panel of distinguished speakers who will help us come to grips with that very question. How do we measure innovation? And more importantly, how do we measure innovation ROI? So, let me introduce our amazing panel of speakers. Let's start with Noor Shawwa, who's the Managing Director at Endeavour. Please give a round of applause. We have Hesham Metwalli, who's the CEO, Australian Graduate School of Leadership. A round of applause, please. Thank you. We have James Woudhuysen, Professor at South Bank University in London. We have Jabir Walji, Innovation Expert and former Innovation Manager with Ashghal. Anshul Srivastav, CIO with Union Insurance. And Roberto Ordonez, who's the Managing Partner, AlunaCatalyst.com. And kicking things off is our moderator, Charlie Barlow, who's the CEO of Rockfirst Capital. Over to you, Charlie.
Great, thank you very much indeed. And first of all, thank you for everyone for sticking around. I thought this graveyard slot we'd have no one here, so very much appreciate it and appreciate the distinguished panel we have here. How much innovation is just enough? Well, I think a theme of today has been across this conference that it's never been a better time to invest in innovation for corporates. The competitive environment has never been so fierce, and innovation in what I deem profitable differentiation is absolutely key. Just picking up on this first theme, and then I'll pass to the panel, it was interesting that His Excellency this morning touched on the fact that innovation does not have to be technology. So we're going to remember that throughout this session. Four Seasons have innovated recently. They now sell sleep as opposed to rooms. Disney have innovated. They sell emotions as opposed to characters. Apple changed music. Starbucks brought a living room onto the high street. So innovation comes in all shapes and forms. But just to kick this off, I'm going to pass to Jabir to really start us here, to touch upon technical and non-technical innovation.
Yes.
And, you know, innovation depends on what sector, what industry you're in.
Okay, thanks, Charlie. As Charlie mentioned, I just want to clarify the point that there are two kinds of innovation. One is technical and one is non-technical. And His Highness this morning touched on that thing. And non-technical innovation is like innovation in management, HR innovation, business model innovation. In the future, when you go forward, those are the key innovation that's going to be the differentiator, not your technical innovation. Coming to the question on how much innovation is enough, again, it depends on what industry you are in. For example, if you take the airline, the amount of innovation required or the threshold of innovation in an airline compared to a threshold required in a biotech. The biotech threshold is much higher of innovation. The other point we got to take into consideration is the speed of innovation. For example, if you're developing a product and you want FDA approval and you have to patent that thing, the time is of essence here. So if the speed is not there, you lose out. And the final point I would touch on over here is the size of the company. Generally speaking, the bigger the company, the more innovation takes place over there compared to a small site or an SME. So these are the three main factors I would touch on how much innovation is enough.
Great. And Roberto, am I right in thinking that innovation within corporations in silos is pointless? There must be a culture of innovation within the corporate.
Yes, indeed. I mean, innovation to me, it's all about culture. And culture. The thing with culture, the challenging part is that culture starts at the top. And when you're trying to bring innovation into a corporation, I'll give you an example. McKinsey did a study some years ago about Fortune 500 executives, how important is innovation? And to most of them, to 80% plus, they said it's stop. Now, when they go back to how effective you are, or you think you are, it's less than 20. And the thing is, the challenges with innovation is that innovation most times it's important, we say it's important, we put it on the website, it's on the value parts of it, but leadership has to show really put the words behind the actions behind the words. It's about how much time you spent reviewing the progress on your innovation. When you talk to your people, you talk to your direct reports, how much do you talk about this? And one thing, going back to your culture innovation, one thing is very important. It's actually a bit difficult to absorb, and it's the first question you need to ask. It's, do you actually have a place to fail? Because innovation is an experimenting process, and like any experimenting process, you're not going to get it right the first time. And when you say a place to fail, I don't mean, do you have a room where you go inside and you fail? That's not what this is. Is, do you have a place, do you give your people the mental space, and you promote in your people the mental space to experiment? You give them the time, you give them the resources, and that is key. Another thing for culture, it's we all have an inherent innovation or called creativity potential. We were all kids, and remember, you were kids, you were fearless, you were creative, you played around, nothing stopped you. But somehow when we got to be adults, we put that to sleep. And to get innovation into your system, you have to you got to go back and train your people to reawaken that capacity. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. There's actually techniques to do that. But if you want an innovation culture, your leadership has to get behind it, and it has to, part of being behind it is sponsoring this training to go back into the organization. And lastly, if you're serious about it, you want to put it in your scorecards. In a way, what you measure tends to get done, and if your managers know that innovation is going to be part of their evaluation system, I assure you that innovation will come around. There is this company called Discovery. It's an insurance company, and what they do is they do competitions of innovation, and it's one of the most innovative companies for insurance in South Africa. And out of the 10,000 managers, every year, they pair them up in teams of 4, and they make them compete. And they have to come up with innovation ideas, and it's visual. Everybody sees it. Whoever wins gets rewarded. And this creates a portfolio of ideas, a portfolio of initiatives, and everybody's got innovation in their minds. So I would say those pieces are really important in culture.
Okay, thanks, Roberto. Leading on from that, James, I guess across an organization, there are different priorities across different stakeholders within a business. So a shareholder wants a certain level of innovation, a CFO wants a different level of innovation. How do you see that playing out?
Well, first of all, I always disagree with the category stakeholder. It was pioneered by SRI in an internal memo in the early 60s, and then it gained academic respectability in the 80s. I don't think workers have much of a stake in any firm, really, and it's interesting that you mention them. How much innovation is enough? I think there's an objective measure there, which is independent of marketing or finance officers, which is, in the West at least, we don't have nearly enough. The rate of innovation is slowing up. No matter what is said about IT, there's some progress there, not as much as is made out by Silicon Valley. And in energy and in transport, and in many other sectors, retail particularly, even healthcare, I would say we need much more innovation. We haven't got nearly enough. Most financial officers will be hostile to innovation because it would change the sunk costs that they've already endured, or it would write them off more likely. They would have to cannibalize their existing business if they were to move, say, from fossil fuels to renewables or safe from fixed line to mobile communications. So I think they are, or can be, a bit of a problem. They would prefer right now in the West to keep money earning no interest in banks rather than engage in innovation. If you look at not just the famous case of Apple, but Coke, Pfizer, energy companies, General Electric. There's a certain amount of priority on innovation, but much more priority on playing safe. So I think we're in a rogues gallery here, Charlie. You know, most corporate management will walk the walk, much fewer will, will talk the talk, much fewer will walk the walk. And the thing that I find most disturbing is I believe that human beings create innovations, but I'm much more interested right now in technological innovations than those in management or organization, and especially in business model. If I hear another story about Uber, Airbnb, and all the rest of it, I'm going to fall asleep. You know, it's so boring. And what I would like to hear more about is fusion power, for example. I'd like to hear more about stem cells. I'd like to hear more about magnetic levitation. And that's not because I'm not humanistic, very humanistic, just we're not getting the progress in those fields at the rate that I think we all need.
You touched on something interesting here, that in the West you believe there's possibly not enough innovation, and it's probably, there's a lot of PR around the innovation. I wonder if, Anshul, I know you have worked in North America, you've worked in Asia, and now you work in the GCC. What is your experience of the different sort of levels of innovation that you've seen?
To an extent, I tend to disagree with James on I think the data, what he's talking about is as is data, but yes, the West, the East, and the Middle East, definitely the MENA region, is putting a lot of effort and energy into innovation. Now here, the thing is, if you are not innovating, auxiliary industries around you will innovate. That's the key. I'll take an example, like telecom is an industry. Now, other than voice and data, they didn't have anything. Now, auxiliary industries around, like mobile apps, the telephone, the handsets, they are continuously working on to bring on the new technologies. So, yes, definitely the portion I agree on with him, with James rather, is, yeah, healthcare requires innovation, but yes, Fitbits are transmitting data about your health, and they are giving you real-time data in terms of your health. So, innovation is the state of mind. It's like something which is part of your system, whether it's your education system, whether it's your organization system, that has to be injected right from the generations. Whether that generation reaches the corporate world and does that, but before that, it has to go into the education setup to actually allow the people to look for. It is irrespective of geography. I have worked in North America, Europe, GCC, Asia, everywhere. It's not going into the system actually, and that's where it's important. So then only the actual value of innovation will come out. And whether it's sector like healthcare, whether it's sector like transport and whatever, till it is a mindset, it will not come out. That's my take on it.
Yeah. And sadly, for a lot of corporates, they're not all part of the Forbes Innovation Index, and it's all about survival, and it's innovating to survive. Noor, perhaps you can touch on the difference between sustainable innovation and the kind of disruptive innovation that is a buzzword around particularly the technology sector at the moment.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to differentiate the two, because a lot of people tend to use the word disruptive innovation in a way where they tend to overuse that term. So generally speaking, you have the sustainable innovation is when you have a product and you're continuously improving it. And then you have the disruptive innovation is when you're generally bringing something that's completely new, that's usually not good enough at the beginning, and then eventually improves at a rate where it overtakes the older technology. So the memory storage, for example, every 10 years a new technology comes in that completely replaces the other one. I think it's very important to have both of them. So, I mean, I tend to look at things from the eyes of the business owners. You simply can't stop. So there has to be this constant improvement in growing your business and improving your product, improving the way you do things. Otherwise, somebody else is coming to eat your lunch. And the disruptive innovation, you just have these companies that come out and really come up with some innovative ideas. You know, I was just chatting with Roberto. A really good example of this is these two Turkish entrepreneurs from a company called Biopipe. They basically innovated something that is such a boring industry, which is, what's it called, wastewater management. So they innovated a way to take bacteria from what you would normally find in the river, which usually cleans out the water, and they built it into the pipes so that it actually, as you have the water going through the water pipes, that bacteria actually cleans out the water as opposed to taking it to a processing plant. That's a very disruptive innovation that just can completely change an industry. So I think it's important to see the two, and it's important to